A couple years ago, I was living in a small 2-bedroom apartment with just my small chihuahua and myself. For perspective, I was a 22-year-old female. Also, the apartment I lived at was more like a large house that was separated into 3 sections. I only had one other neighbor living at these units, and he lived to my left. All the other units were vacant. I had never felt unsafe living there until this incident. I left for work during the week at around 7:30 a.m. and wouldn't return home until after 5 p.m. I had a definite daily routine. While I was at work, I would leave my dog in the living room area so she could lounge on the couch. In this area, there were large sliding glass doors that led to the backyard. When I would take Honey, my dog, out to go potty, there was a large red fence that wrapped around my yard and separated it from my neighbor's yards to my left, right, and behind. Besides my one fellow renter, there were a few houses that were occupied behind me. All the people who lived around me seemed normal and never made a lot of noise or caused any issues. So, one day I went to work as usual. After work, I decided to go visit my friend for a little while. When I was there, I had this feeling that I should wait before going home. So I stayed a little longer than I had originally planned. When I got home, it was around 9 p.m. I opened my door and called the Honey as I normally do. She would always run up to me and jump around in excitement. This time, however, I noticed she was in her cage that I kept open and it contained her food and water bowls. I kept calling her name, but she never responded. I started feeling a sense of dread. I walked up to her cage and I immediately realized she was dead. At first I thought she had died of some sort of natural cause. I then looked up and realized the door to the second bedroom was wide open. I always kept it closed and I knew I hadn't opened it before work. It was at that moment I knew someone had been in my house. My blood ran cold and I ran outside and stood there in shock for a minute. Wanting to hear a familiar voice, I called my dad, who was luckily in town right then, and advised me to call the cops. The cops arrived at the apartment and immediately began saying that the dog probably died of natural cause. However, I showed her where the back gate was wide open and several other clues someone else had been there. She still didn't believe me and wouldn't do anything else until we had an autopsy on Honey to show she had been killed. Fast forward a week later and we get the autopsy results back. She had died of blunt force trauma to the head, and whoever did it to her had placed her in the cage and covered her up to make her look like she had been sleeping. Our best guess is that the person killed her because she wouldn't stop barking. When a detective was sent to the apartment, he asked around to all of my neighbors and no one had seen or heard anything. Also, the guy who lives beside me didn't have anyone break into his apartment, so I felt like whoever did this was looking for me. It has been 2 years since this incident, and the culprit was never caught. So, apartment creeper and dog killer, let's not meet. This happened to me just about 2 hours ago, around 4:30 a.m., and I can't get back to sleep. Every creak or drip of the faucet now makes me jump. I only stopped trembling about 15 to 20 minutes ago. So, I was asleep on my friend's couch and woke up to the sight of someone opening their front door. They may have said something to me through the cracked open window first, and either that or the door opening is what woke me up. This tall and very slender lady in a long, red salmon-colored dress and something on her head started moving towards me. I tried to pretend to be asleep, but once she knelt down next to me, I knew the jig was up. I fully opened my eyes and looked over at her, trying to make out her face. She put her hand on my shoulder and started asking me questions that I didn't understand. The sentences just seemed jumbled and incoherent despite the fact she was speaking English, the only language I know. She was holding a couple of papers. Almost seemed like she was asking me questions off of it. I sat up and I asked why she just walked inside, and she said she was from some department or something and asked for my name. I didn't respond and just kind of looked around. I debated calling out for my friends or running for one of their rooms, but I feared for my physical safety. I grabbed my phone to call one of them after the most awkward 30 seconds of silence, and she just told me, "I can see you're not ready yet. It's okay," and touched my arm and calmly walked out. I saw her walk towards the street from the window. I immediately made sure the doors were all locked, as these friends usually don't lock up, which I'm sure is how she was able to just walk in. In sheer shock, I tried to wake up my friends via phone and just sat on the couch and waited for my heart to stop racing, or at least slow down. After 15 minutes, I went upstairs and woke them up. The friend I knew better, Max, thought it was weird, but was mostly unconcerned. He apologized that this happened to me and went back to bed. The other friend, Brock, empathized and was also very freaked out. We sat in the stairwell for a bit before he went back to bed. I'm now back on the couch, but I don't know how to sleep anymore. I have never been more frightened and unnerved.